So I get to introduce Dr. Catrina, who is a former educator and learned maybe that teaching people what to think is not as important as how they should think. When she talks about her courses, she's one of these people that's driven by the results of the user. When people talk about selling from the stage, I sell this, and I've asked people, what do they get? And it's almost like a blank stare, like they don't care. What drives Catrina is because she cares. And that care is what she educates to her children and her husband, but also what she wants the user to have an experience. So they not only learn from her course, they're eager to experience something else again. I don't even understand how rare that is in this industry, but it's important because we have a nation that in many ways doesn't care. She does and we do. I introduce you, Catrina.
You're going to make me cry. Thank you for that beautiful introduction. And I often tell people that because I help with creating courses, right? And I often tell people that I care about your clients' results, and that's why you want me, because we're going to get them results. Summer, is it okay if I share my slides in the chat?
Go ahead.
Okay.
I know your
so
style.
I like to, and I'm going to do it both ways this time. So I like to give my slides out just because sometimes it's easier to follow along on your own. And then I'm also going to share a screen this time, just because I do have a lot of questions for you because we're running through something real time. So my talk is anatomy of an effective activity, creating tasks that get shit done. So we are focused on not just creating action-based learning, we're focused on action-based learning that they'll actually complete, right? If you've ever taken a course and you've started an activity and you got stuck and then maybe like just stopped doing the course altogether, then you've experienced that problem and why we need to make these things effective. Okay, so, oops. All right, in the chat, I'd like to know one activity that you have that you either already have in your course or that you might have in a course. One activity that you either already have in your course or that you might have in your course. And this should be something that you're having them do. Okay, while you're doing that, because I know typing takes time and I am on a clock, I'm going to go ahead and talk through a few things before we start to break this down. So our agenda, I'm going to go over the problem, the parts, right? So this is about the anatomy of an activity and then the implementation of those parts. So the problem, action is critical to a successful course, right? They are the things that we are helping folks to actually do so that they get results. Nobody learns by just pouring information into their heads. And so unfinished activities means that they won't be successful. And if they're not successful, then they won't finish your course. You won't get testimonials. You won't get referrals. They won't buy other things from you, right? For a lot of people, having that course is kind of a stepping stone to more expensive work with you. They're not going to do that if they didn't get success in that course. So what every effective activity needs is 5 things. The activity instructions, obviously, probably, time estimates, clear wins, success criteria, and connection and impact. Those are the things I'm going to go over with the rest of the time that I have. I am also assuming that if you're at the point where you have an activity idea, you've already done the work of starting with goals and working backwards, and you know all of the steps that they're going to take and all of the content you need to pull in order to help them take those steps. If you don't, that is actually my VIP gift. So if you have not yet bought the VIP upgrade, I'd recommend doing that now. So assuming you've done all that, let's build an activity. Okay, so I'm going to just do a quick, we've got people doing tests, assessments, assignments, toss the ball to give a quick compliments effectively. Ooh, that's a fun one. Journaling, quizzes, worksheets, frameworks, action items, scoring points and rewards, accountability, find images legal to use for their situation. Ooh, I love that one, Barbara. Coaching, content, community, photography assignments, taking photos. Okay. So some of those are actions, and some of those are the container that the action happens in, right? So a quiz is more of a container that the action happens in. The action that they're doing in a quiz is actually recall. And recall is important to remembering information. But the action is the recalling. You're asking them to recall information to fill out your quiz. So that's just the difference there. So the action, this is your starting point. And this is about making sure that you know how to write the instructions, but also that you have scaffolded enough. And scaffolding is the steps that build on each other so that they can get from ground zero to the actual result that you have promised them, right? So we are doing that because it reduces cognitive load. And cognitive load is this idea that we can only hold so much information at one time, right? If we are asking folks to do eight different things across 4 different steps, then it's going to be difficult. And so the questions that you should ask, I have more questions in my free gift, which is a template. It's got a worksheet with the questions for you to work through, as well as an actual template for an activity. But the core questions are, what are you having them do? Is it right-sized, realistic for them to complete? Is it specific? And if not, how do we make it specific? And then what do they need first? So the example that I'm going to kind of run through is time management, because I feel like that's one that often gets thrown into courses willy-nilly, even if it's not a course on time management. So an activity that I see a lot is having folks track their time. How many people in here have tracked their time or had to track their time for a course? Put it in the chat. Put me in the chat. Nobody? Okay, good. Yeah, Barbara, I figured you. Okay, so this is about making sure that, no, exactly, Joe, tracking time isn't fun, but this is about making sure it's accessible, right? That it's the right size and realistic. I hate tracking time. It makes my eye twitch. But if we take time tracking as the thing that we're having them do and we focus it to 2 days a week, you're not going to track your time. You're going to track your interruptions, right? That's all you have to do. 2 days. Any interruptions that happen when you're supposed to be getting focus work done, write those things down. That's something that is realistic. It's specific. And it's something that they can complete as a single activity over a few days. Does that distinction make sense? Type yes in the chat if that made sense. Okay, thanks, Summer. Absolutely. Okay, so what do they need to do first then? So if I'm having them track interruptions over the first couple of days, what activity or what thing, what step do I think that they would need to do first? Tell me in the chat. What do you think? Adjust. Have a tracker. That's a good one. Okay. So Avatar said how to have a tracker. I would agree with having an app or pen and paper, right? Like we don't need to make it complicated. If people struggle with technology, let's not have them download an app that they have to learn. That increases the cognitive load if it's something else they have to learn. So we want them to pick something, right? Crayons, yes, absolutely. I know I've got crayons all over my house because I have kids. Picking something to use, and Barbara said define their distractions. Those are the top 2 things. And they can be done kind of 1-2, right? Pick something that you're going to track with, and then define what a distraction is for you. Cool. So we actually have our first 2 steps in this activity. So we're going to go to considering time. The rest of this is a lot further, and the action pieces, I have a lot more questions in the actual template that it just don't have time to do in 25 minutes. So time and the rest of this is all going to go a little bit faster. So this is about making sure that you've accounted for how much time they have and how much time the thing will take. So in the time tracking example, we've already done that, right? Tracking your time actually takes time. And that's why it can feel so hard and so difficult for a lot of people, because if you're tracking every single move, like I just got out to get water, should I track the 2 minutes that took? I just made a pot of coffee, should I track the 5 minutes that took? Right? So those things can make it feel really big and overwhelming. So you want to ask yourself, how much time do they have? And then how much time will it take? And you're going to compare those two things. So I can't tell you how much time that they have, because these are your these are your clients, right? These are your people. You should know and should have already asked in your validation for your course how much time they have a week to spend on this thing that you're having them do. So then take that and compare that to how much time you think it's going to take for that activity. So my example kind of fell apart in this one, but if you find that there's a mismatch, which if we kept going with the time tracking, like just general for the whole 7 days out of the week, then there would have been a mismatch, right? If they only have 5 hours and I'm asking them to track every move they make for 7 days, then we're going to have a mismatch here. So if the answer is yes to this question, go back to step 1, because you have some narrowing of the activity to do, narrowing of the action. Okay, our third piece is clear wins. So now we know what the action is going to be. We need to figure out what the actual deliverable is. And this is the outcome. And then why this win is important. So what will they have when they're done? So let's say that they went through the 2 days and they have tracked the distractions that are happening during their focus time. What will they have? In the chat, what will they know? Clear-cut path to where to save time. Ahas, yep. Yeah, and my guess, like having done something similar before, is they'll have a lot of things that they didn't realize were taking up so much time. So many distractions. Experience, yep. Exactly. So they'll have knowledge based in data, right? They have done the actual tracking. They'll have concrete, they're not guessing anymore. They have the concrete things that they know are interrupting them throughout their day or throughout their focus time. And then we need to answer, why is it important to them and to moving forward in the course? So I'm going to paint you a bigger context for this course. They are trying to make space and time for the things that matter, right? I think that is a common trope in courses nowadays. And so why knowing this data is important to them is because they've tried other things, right? And it hasn't worked yet. Nothing that they've tried for time tracking has worked yet. And then moving forward in the course, the next step is going to be picking one of those interruptions and creating a solution to the problem. This is an interruption. This is the boundary I'm going to set so that I don't get interrupted by this one thing, right? And so we're building on top of each other. We've already established the things that are interrupting them. We're picking one next, and we're going to set the boundary, right? And so that's how we're taking this small little activity that seems so easy to do, identifying how this is a win, but also telling them it's going to help you with that. And that is going to help you claim your time back, get your time back, right? And so specifically for clear wins, when you're answering these questions, you want to make sure that when you answer the questions, answer as you, but then when you get to the template, translate it for them into language that they would use, because it is something that you'll share with them. Okay, number 4, this is about giving them the ability to self-check and most importantly, not be perfect. A lot of folks, especially folks that are coming to you about time, because we're still pretending they're coming to you about time, feel like they need to check every box, right? In order to get the most out of a course. Most adults that pay good money for a course assume that they should be checking all of the boxes, right? And should be perfect. That hangs people up. It creates a barrier. So you want to make sure you're clear about the deliverable, and clear should be, what does good enough look like? Not what does perfect look like. Perfect would be remembering to track every single interruption over those 2 days. But good enough looks like you remembered to successfully track interruptions during your focus time at least 3 out of the 5 times that you got interrupted, right? So telling them that good activity design is really about good communication. So what does good enough look like, and how will they know when they're on track? So when they start to see patterns, in our specific example, we can tell them when you start to see, the same interruption coming up or the same interruption the same time of day, those are the patterns that we're interested in for the next steps. Okay, connection and impact. And this is our last kind of place where we'd be answering a whole bunch of questions. This is about tying things together, right? People, specifically adults that are learning online, like to have what they're doing and what they're learning tied concretely to their real lives, right? And so the questions here are about, how does this activity connect to what they've already done and also to what's coming next? So you are outlining that kind of learning journey that you're trying to take them on in the activity itself. And why this matters is that it creates buy-in, right? How many people have taken a class, and that's either a course you bought or a formal classroom, and felt like you were given busy work? Say busy work in the chat. I know it was more of you than Summer. Yeah, too many of them, right? And sometimes, like probably 25% of the time, it is actually busy work, especially in formal classrooms, right? They just want to, keep you occupied when you're a kid so you don't create havoc. But if you're an adult and you felt like you were given busy work, it was likely because they weren't explaining why it was important to you reaching that goal. And so as the course creator, you want to make sure that it's very clear why this thing matters to their overall success. That is how it fits in the bigger or in the smaller pieces of the journey, but also in the bigger transformation. How does this activity build on things to get them to that goal, the thing that they came to you to change? Okay, and then you're going to take all those answers, which if you download the freebie, it's like 2 pages. It's like 2 pages of questions. That will take you like 30 minutes to answer on your own. And then you're going to fill out this template. And this template is also in my freebie. Insert your time estimate, right? Make sure that it's a range of time. So don't just say, this will take you an hour. Give a range of an hour to an hour and a half. Always overestimate, always overestimate instead of underestimate. And that's because people will feel like they didn't do enough and like they're the problem, like Michael was talking about earlier. Like the learner is not usually the problem. Usually it's a course design issue, and time estimates can really go a long way in kind of getting ahead of that. So insert the time range, purpose, and how it builds. And so here is where you're going to explain how the activity is going to help them reach the goal and the connection between this win, the last one, and future wins. You're also going to give them the deliverable win or impact, however you want to frame it. But here you're going to explain what they'll have when they're done. So in our example, what they'll have when they're done is real data to pick a specific type of interruption that they can set a boundary around. That is our win. That's our deliverable for the next step. Resources. And this question is actually in the freebie, but because I have limited time, we didn't go over this because this is the easiest one to do. This is just the shit they need, right? Like the app, right? Avatar mentioned the app, or crayons, or paper, or having a list of potential types of interruptions that they might have, right? Having something where they're not like, well, I don't know what's considered an interruption. I want to check my email, but do you really? So resources, then the actual task. And this is where you tell them what the action is and how to do it. And those are the things that very first step is going to help you flesh out. And then within that task is where you'll give them the success criteria. So this is where you explain what good enough looks like. And then what's next for them. So that's drawing the connection between this activity, the next step, and then their real life world, right? So if they did this audit of those 2 days and their interruptions, the next step is picking one. You need the data, right, to pick the one to set the boundary. And that what this is going to do for them is create more time and space for them to do the things that they actually want to get done. Okay, so I've got a free template, which I will drop in the chat. And then you can connect with me on LinkedIn or YouTube. I've got a YouTube channel where I probably talk ad nauseum about, about this kind of stuff and how not to hurt your learner. I am going to stop sharing and look for questions. Are there questions? Peter brought up a good point. Notification dings are absolutely one of those things that probably cause a lot of interruptions.
Hey, Katrina, I just want to acknowledge you. Don't hurt the learner. That was funny, actually. Because these courses, if you do it wrong, it can be really painful experience for people. And if you do it right, it can be delightful. And you're playing in the playground of instructional design, and this is your ability to take we teach stuff to people face to face, but then your ability to put it into a course or a program or a learning activity, it's next level stuff. So I
Thanks,
appreciate
Joe.
your ability to take these complex concepts and simplify them down.
Thank you. I try. And also, a terrible course is exactly why I'm doing this. When I went to get out of higher education, I took a course on how to like go from PhD to industry or some, I think that was the tagline. It was terrible. It was a collection of videos that had no starting point. There was no identification of like what I should actually do other than just go in and start watching all of these videos. And the more people I talked to, the more people had an experience like that. So
One of the things that I've done I have an online course on choosing a business wisely, but I've broken all the modules into, I mean, the videos are usually no more than 15 minutes. They're usually like 7, 8, 9 minutes, because sitting through an hour training video and doing the exercises, but if you watch a video and then do this activity, watch a video and then do this, download this worksheet and then, or go out and do this stuff. So, that's one thing as a student. I don't want to go through it. I don't want to sit down for 3 hours straight. But if you break it into baby steps, it's a much better experience.
Absolutely. And that's why, like in the example where you're doing 2 days of tracking just interruptions, we're not picking the interruptions yet. Like we're breaking it down. So you're just looking for the interruptions. And then the next step is looking at the data to figure it out. You have to break it down small enough that it feels manageable. Because they're learning, right? They came to you because they want to learn how to do this thing. And the smaller pieces that we can break it into, the more likely they are to be able to be successful. I don't know where
and
I
when
am on
you
time.
when you have a small lesson and a small activity, it's actually it creates a space for celebration to move you further.
Absolutely.
And I studied a lot of this stuff with somebody else, and something in a course is set a mission, your mission, should you choose to accept it, and then at the end of it, mission accomplished. There's a clear finish line, and you get to actually celebrate. I went through this, this thing. Each time you get these little celebrations along the way, it really does give you that dopamine hit.
Yeah, it's all about continued motivation to course completion.
I put that YouTube link in the chat. Dr. Catrina Mitchum has a beautiful YouTube channel. Whenever I create a course, I take a look at what should I look in here to make this course better. And I think I'm one of the biggest viewers she has because I hog her YouTube channel all the time. I put that link in the chat, you guys. Subscribe if you're course creators, if you're course takers. It'll help a lot.